Hello everybody, welcome back to the Spudz Cooper channel, here today with another review. Very late one, I do apologise. It's been almost 2 months since Cyberpunk 2077 released, and it released to, well, just saying negative is probably a bit generous, overwhelmingly negative press. However, I enjoyed it, I'm not going to lie, I thought it was pretty good. Obviously, it's not where it was advertised at all, which, yeah, I have a problem with it. False advertising, especially from CDPR, is unacceptable. However, I still enjoyed it. Like, obviously, yes, it's not what we were promised, it's not what we were showcased, and CDPR definitely lied about the quality of the game, especially on base consoles, which is a bit unacceptable considering they've been developing it for base consoles for about 7 years now. And obviously all the delays and everything, we expected it to be better. However, when it did finally launch on December 10th, 2020, this is what we were given. And obviously, like other reviews, I'll be going into the same aspects with gameplay, narrative, graphics, and then my overall thoughts. However, this time I've added a new one, which is performances, because obviously acting in video games is a big thing nowadays, especially for single-player video games. They're even able to get big celebrity cameos, or I suppose not even cameos in this one. They have Keanu Reeves. Like, come on. So yeah, that's a new section I've added, and without further ado, let's get into it. What did I think of gameplay? Honestly, it is mediocre at best. Gunplay is nothing we've not seen before, and melee was really underwhelming. It felt like none of the weapons had much weight to them, and by that I mean they had no kick, like no power, and firing every gun just kind of felt the same. And melee was incredibly boring because, again, there was no kick to the weapons. One thing that did improve how combat worked and flowed, however, was the cyberware system. You can visit Ripper docks around Night City, who can improve you by implementing different cybernetic enhancements, such as iron bones, meaning you take less damage, cybernetic lungs to increase stamina, and gorilla arms so that you can beat the living hell out of literally anyone nearby. Driving, honestly, it felt alright. Each car felt different to drive, which was kind of what I wanted with guns, and I liked it. It was pretty similar to driving in GTA. However, Los Santos is much more dense and packed than Night City. And on the topic of Night City, once again, it's not what we were promised. Judging by Cyberpunk lore, which is something I researched heavily before, actually pre-ordering the game or anything, because yes, I did pre-order the game. Yeah, judging by Cyberpunk lore, Night City, I apologise, should be the most densely populated city in America. However, it just feels really empty. There's not really anything too interesting around the map to experience. You'll stumble across an assault every so often, and that's about it. And every so often a fixer will contact you with a job to do, which can occupy about 10 minutes of your time. I was hoping for the world to feel a lot like the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, because despite the fact that the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 is quite empty, it still feels alive due to little events you can find here and there and wildlife. However, Night City wasn't at all what we wanted or what it should have been, which was a real shame. The way missions were laid out was actually quite interesting to me. I did really enjoy it, because you will have your main missions, which obviously is the main story, which I'll get into later, but then certain characters you will meet in the main story, they will slowly progress into side missions for you to do. And the side missions, a lot of the time, I will admit, I preferred a lot of the side missions to the main missions. You can meet very good characters a lot of the time, and a lot of the better side missions, you will just find them just driving around, just randomly, because you will find little question marks on the map, similar to Stranger missions in Rockstar games. Sorry, I'm comparing this to lots of Rockstar games, but Rockstar are insane in what they do, so that's why I think they're the gold standard for games, so that's why I'm comparing this. But yeah, so you'll find these little question marks around the map, which will sometimes maybe just be a little event which can take 5 to 10 minutes, or they can be a proper fully fledged side mission which can take up to about half an hour of your time collectively, as they can branch off into multiple different missions for you to have a break in between. Similar to CDPR's previous games, there are romance options in the game, which was to be expected as it's been included in their very successful Witcher series. honestly, they add nothing to the game except a second safe house and extra dialogue options with one character. Naturally, there are different requirements for the optional romances, which mainly rely on the sex of your character. However, something as small as just saying the wrong thing can screw it all up for you, which is quite interesting, to be honest. The one benefit to the option is it really fleshes out more characters. For example, in my playthrough, I played as a female V, and I decided to romance Judy Alvarez, and it was through this that she became one of the standout characters of the game for me. So, if anything, I would recommend pursuing the romance options purely for this. Similar to GTA, there are also prostitutes, or joy toys, as they're known in this world. So you pay them a small fee and it results in a short scene, which just feels awkward. And again, there is absolutely no benefit to this. Now, you can't talk about this game without mentioning the sheer amount of bugs there were, especially on release. Now, naturally, CDPR have rolled out patches. They're slowly going to roll out more to fix the bugs, but when it first launched, it was bad. Like, there were none which were like game breaking, but there were ones which were just like little finicky ones which made it annoying and so that you couldn't advance, and the game crashed a lot. Well, it crashed a lot on like base consoles. Obviously on PC it was fine, however I played it on PS4. And yeah, it did have its problem with bugs and crashing, which is a real shame, especially considering all the delays it had and all the time they had to start fixing that. One thing I do have to give credit to is the character customization, because it really is fantastic. There's just so many small details which you wouldn't even think about having, but for some reason CDPR has those ideas. For example, completely customizable genitalia. Like, even the option to play as a transgender character, which was great to see and will hopefully move games to become more progressive. But overall, gameplay was nothing special, and it wasn't what anyone was actually hoping for. Graphics were, once again, underwhelming. There's not much to say here. I didn't even mess around with the photo mode. I was so underwhelmed by what was actually in front of me. The frame rate, again, it was bad. It suffered a beating if you went to a highly populated area like Jig Jig Street, and textures could take a minute or two to load in after you'd actually entered the area, which is not great because it's 2021 now. We should be past all of this, like the lag and having so many bugs on release. We should be past it all, but unfortunately we're just not. So once again, this was an underwhelming part of the game.
Most people I thought were my friends. They couldn't even stand to be in the same room with me. You're fucking closest to me by a long shot. Oh, it is.
Now, this is one of the stronger points of the game, and one that left a really positive impression on me. The performances were absolutely phenomenal. Acting in video games is such an underappreciated form of acting, as a lot of the time people can miss out on some stellar performances, and this game certainly had its fair few. Obviously, V being the main character, they're going to have to stand out, and they really do. The two actors playing V really are amazing, and they really give life to the character. Another reason V stands out is because you always know exactly how they're feeling. Obviously with other characters it can be portrayed in their animation, but always being in first person and not being able to see the character's face and knowing exactly what they're thinking and feeling at that moment just through their use of voice is incredible, and I really think the actors deserve credit for that. A lot of people expected Keanu Reeves to be the standout performance in this game, and if I'm being honest, he's one of the more forgettable performances. Johnny is an incredibly well-written character, and one who I really enjoyed my time with. However, Keanu Reeves really falls behind everyone else in the game, which of course is a matter of experience, as video game acting and film acting are two completely different forms. And side characters as well, such as Judy and Panam, stand out as well, overall. Because again, side characters, they're really fleshed out as you get to know them, and a lot of that is because of the acting. But overall, the actors of this game are fantastic, and CDPR did a great job finding them. Here's the thing about the narrative. It's going to be a bit harder to explain, as the story has many branching pathways, and missions can go so many different ways. So I'm just going to explain the general gist of the story, and then go over the ending of what I got in my first playthrough. You start the game being presented with a choice which will affect the first bit of your journey. Nomad, Street Kid, or Corpo. Whatever you choose is up to you. Nomad starts out in a desert where you're scheduled to do a job with Jackie Wells. The job goes relatively south and leads to a shootout, however this just brings V and Jackie close together. 6 months pass and V now lives in Night City as a merc when one day, Jackie and her get called on a job by the fixer Dexter Shawn. The job is to steal a microchip being held by the corporation Arasaka. Once again, the job goes south when the CEO of Arasaka, Saburo, is killed by his own son, Yorinobu. V and Jackie make a desperate attempt for escape, causing the microchip to be damaged and Jackie to get killed. To save the chip, V inserts it into themselves and meets with Dex. Dex then shoots you as a result of the job going south. However, by some miracle, the microchip reboots you somehow, and you awake in a garbage dump where you're greeted by a Japanese man and Dex. Dex is shot and you are taken by the Japanese man known as Takamura. V is dropped at their apartment where something awakens inside of them, the engram of ex-rock boy turned terrorist, Johnny Silverhand. V is informed that they only have a few weeks left and Silverhand's engram is slowly taking over their brain, so soon enough, V will be gone and Johnny will be all that's left. The rest of the game follows V and Johnny's progressive friendship and their quest to find a way to remove Johnny from V's head. Obviously, there's a lot more to the story than I'm letting on, but as I said, it's a game with branching pathways, so the littlest dialogue option can change everything. And I did really enjoy that about the story, because I was really thinking about what I'm saying. I was thinking, like, well, if I say this, what result will this have on mine and Johnny's friendship? Or if I say this, will this mess things up with Arasaka? It was really good to have that option of knowing how it could all go wrong, just by one word. For my original ending, I stupidly decided to trust Arasaka. You get 4 options: trust Arasaka to help remove the chip, trust the Aldecaldos to help you break into Arasaka to remove the chip, let Johnny take over your body and have him do it all for you, or kill yourself. Trusting Arasaka was not a great choice. It came with some interesting twists and turns, however. For example, the fact that Saburo Arasaka was still alive in the form of an engram, similar to Johnny Silverhand. Breaking into Arasaka goes relatively well as you have the help of Hanako Arasaka. It's only a small fight to Yorinobu's penthouse, which has an elevator down to their lab, where the chip can be removed. V then wakes up in a lab in space, where they're having constant tests done to make sure there's no correlation left between V and Johnny. However, there's one unfortunate correlation. V's brain now sees V's own mind as an imposter and is slowly killing itself to remove V from their own body. That's when you're presented with a choice: sign away your soul and become an engram like Johnny and Saburo, or live your remaining days on Earth and rot away in Night City. Like I said, there are other endings to this game, and each of them will kind of play out in the same way, I've realised, other than of course killing yourself. They will all play out in a way where V will be dead within the next 6 months, as I've already said, V's brain sees V's own mind as an imposter, because since V was killed by Dex and then rebooted by Johnny's engram, V's brain now sees the body as Johnny's. So, in other endings, it seems you're presented with the choice to let Johnny have your body, or you can have your body for the remaining 6 months of your life. Honestly, the narrative is one of the best things about this game. CDPR always has great stories in their games, because even though I'm not really a fan of the Witcher series, I must admit, I am intrigued by the story. So I was expecting a great story from this, and CDPR really delivered. However, the rest of the game was incredibly underwhelming. Okay, so first of all, my final verdict. When I first completed this game, I was so, like, high off of the story and the performances that I would have given it a 9 out of 10, which is why I'm happy I took my time to make this review, because I've now had time to collect my thoughts and get everything together and give my final verdict of a 6.5 out of 10. The game is not what we were promised, which is unacceptable, and even after all the delays, it came out as a disappointment, which is a shame. Narrative and performances alone are not enough to carry a game. You need to have fun gameplay, and there needs to not be as many bugs as there was. So, as much as I love CDPR as a company and loved the story this game gave us, I have to give it a lower score because of how it was on release. And obviously, yes, while they are working their way towards fixing that, they're doing it slowly, which at the minute is not their fault, because they got hacked recently and they've lost a lot of data and whatnot. So obviously I'm expecting them to take their time now. I'm fine with that, but the result of the game that they've roadmapped over the next 6 months should have been what we had on release, and it's such a shame that it's not. All I can really say about this game is that it's it's so disappointing as what could have been one of the greatest games of 2020 and possibly been considered one of the greatest games of all time has fallen so flat on its face, and it's come from such a great company, and I am honestly so disappointed with what we got. But that is it. Thank you for watching, and be sure to leave some constructive criticism in the comments. Tell me things I could do better, for example punctuality, because this is 3 months late. So yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.